The subway car lurched ahead, its wheels howling against the tracks, while the fluorescent lights above danced erratically in the dimness. It began as an ordinary weekday journey, but soon transformed into something extraordinary. Snap! A grotesque noise reverberated through the train car as a hulking brute hurled a 70-year-old man against a metal pole. The sound resonated powerfully, drawing the attention of numerous onlookers. The man's cane fell to the ground with a sharp clatter. Groceries tumbled from a paper bag. His glasses perched askew upon his nose. "Do you aspire to be a hero, Grandpa?" The thug smirked, forcing his forearm against the man's collarbone. "I shall shatter your bones before the eyes of all present." The frail old man coughed, struggling to maintain his balance. Yet he managed to lift a quivering hand, gesturing beyond the menacing figure before him. "That child! You are stealing from him. I beheld it," he whispered, his voice trembling yet resolute. Across the aisle, a young man clad in headphones remained motionless as the thug's accomplice slipped away into the next train car, clutching the stolen wallet. Not a soul stirred, no one pursued. Silence enveloped the surroundings, a palpable presence akin to static. Passengers remained transfixed by their phones. A young person clad in a denim jacket captured on camera, a sly grin playing on their lips, murmuring, "Yo, this is gonna blow up." The elderly man's knees trembled ever so slightly. The young thug, adorned with tattoos, clenched his teeth as he lifted his fist once more. "A grave error, my dear elder." He let out a low growl. Yet, in the midst of that action, a transformation unfolded. A man gradually rose from the fourth row. A baseball cap, a gray zip-up jacket, utility trousers. "Approach." Silence. Jason Statham remained silent. He simply ascended, his gaze fixed on the thug's hand as it swung through the air. His body lay still, yet coiled, akin to a blade poised to unsheath itself. The audience remained oblivious for the moment. Yet the thug did, and for the very first time since this all began. He blinked, a fleeting moment of surprise flickering across his face. Keep your eyes peeled. The ensuing events will bring the entire subway system to a standstill. Before we move forward, be sure to like and subscribe to witness Jason Statham's thrilling confrontation with the subway thug, and let us know where you're tuning in from today. The subway car pulsed with energy and movement. Metal wheels clattered over tracks, while fluorescent lights hummed and flickered above, reminiscent of a weary heartbeat. The underbelly of New York pulsed with a frenetic energy, a cacophony of sounds and a throng of bodies, all steeped in the unmistakable aromas of rubber, oil, and well-loved coats. The overhead handles danced with each jolt of the train, while the graffiti-adorned walls of the car became a mere blur beyond the dusty windows. The clock had just ticked past the hour of 9 in the evening. The familiar blend of late-night workers, wandering tourists, and children returning from a game occupied the seats. Yet no one dared to meet another's gaze. That was the decree. Gaze lowered, silence reigns. Allow the city to swirl and dance around you. Jason Statham positioned himself in the heart of the vehicle, cap drawn down low. A zip-up gray jacket, subtly wrinkled, blends seamlessly into the background. Loose cargo pants. He appeared as though he had just stepped off a long shift, reminiscent of a weary construction worker or perhaps an off-duty driver, bearing the marks of a day spent laboring under the sun. That was the essence of it. He had devoted the afternoon to a modest charity gathering in Queens. Silently, without urgency, affixed my signature to a handful of items at the shelter. I captured a handful of images, then slipped out the back to catch the train home by myself. All he desired was a tranquil journey. Merge seamlessly, inhale deeply. Yet, the moment the thug boarded 2 stops back, Jason's tranquility started to unravel. The man exuded a certain energy. In the twilight of my 20s, trim yet muscular in an audacious manner. Dark t-shirts clung to muscular arms, golden chains swaying with each stride. Hair clipped close on the sides, extended at the crown, resonant tone. A mischievous smile spreads across the face. Behind him, a second man glided silently, his movements smooth and deliberate, navigating the car with an air of practiced stealth. In less than 5 seconds, Jason had deciphered the entire setup. The boisterous individual lamented the theft of his phone. "Hello, someone brushed against my pocket. I swear it," he bellowed. His gaze swept over the young passengers, sharp and predatory, seeking out the most vulnerable among them. In the interim, his accomplice seized the opportunity, reaching into the unguarded backpack of a bewildered child lost in the music of his earbuds. In the blink of an eye, the wallet disappeared. Jason remained still, not at this moment. Yet, another took action. Mr. Harold, a dignified gentleman, his silver hair gleaming, sits in a tailored gray suit. His polished shoes reflect the light, while a leather briefcase rests confidently on his lap. A once proud postman, the sort who would graciously hold doors ajar for those he encountered. His hands trembled ever so slightly, a testament to the passage of time. Yet his voice rang out with clarity as he greeted, "Hey, he is pilfering the wallet from that boy." The sound resonated throughout the entire car. The thug was not pleased. He turned, fury igniting within him as if it were fuel meeting flame. "What was that you just uttered, old man?" Harold rose to his feet, slow and steady, yet with intention. That instant was charged with an electric intensity. And Jason witnessed everything unfold, quiet, piercing, unwavering. He might have taken action by now. Yet a fragment of his being had dared to hope. Perhaps the passengers would take the plunge. Perhaps another soul might lend a hand to the elderly gentleman. That is how the city once was. Yet, at this moment, heads bowed in silence. Gaze withdrew, devices raised not to summon help, but to capture the moment. As the thug forcefully propelled Mr. Harold against the cold metal pole, a realization dawned upon Jason. This very moment could only be him. There is no backup available. Darkness envelopes the space, effortless. One solitary figure standing resolutely against a malevolent force. He had reached the end of his patience. The subway swayed gently as it rumbled through the tunnel. Yet no one paid it any mind anymore. Every gaze was riveted on the scene that was unfolding before them. The thug loomed over Mr. Harold, a menacing presence, exuding confidence with a clenched jaw and flexed fists. His voice, once merely loud, now took on a harsh edge. "No one requested your input, old man." He let out a sharp bark. "Speak again and I will bring you down on the spot, directly before your grandchildren. Is that what you desire?" Joyful mirth. A single snort escaped from his partner by the exit. What about the remainder of the train? Quiet. Expressions devoid of emotion. Devices aimed. Mr. Harold held his position, yet his hands quivered around the strap of his briefcase. His face burned, not from fear, but from a deep sense of humiliation. What about the passengers? Immovable figures. A woman clad in a business suit discreetly glided her thumb over the emergency alert panel positioned by the door. Silence reigned, and nothing transpired. Another man bowed his head, feigning interest in his phone as he scrolled through its screen. A young girl leaned in close to her companion, who was poised with a camera, capturing the moment. Silence enveloped the scene, and not a single soul stirred. No assistance was offered, yet one man clutched the rail with greater intensity. Jason's left hand gripped the cold steel with an unyielding intensity. The knuckles hidden beneath his jacket sleeve turned pale. His breath became measured, his gaze fixed on each subtle twitch, each flex in the thug's stance. The jabs were petty. That was anticipated. Yet, in that moment, the push arrived. The brute seized Harold by the collar of his coat, forcefully thrusting him against the door, the sound of metal clanging ominously behind the old man. "Are you unable to hear me, sir? Or simply foolish?" Mr. Harold coughed, the gusts of wind forcing their way from his chest. He gazed upward, his eyes a blend of bewilderment and steadfast resolve. That was the moment. Jason rose to his feet. "Consider with intention. Calculated. Exercise caution in your actions." He tilted his cap ever so slightly as he made his way into the center aisle, his boots making no sound against the rubber floor. His voice sliced through the air with precision. "In just a fleeting moment, you stand on the precipice of a decision that could lead to your greatest regret." Each phone rotated, The thug halted momentarily, his gaze sharpening as it fell upon the composed figure positioned a mere 10 feet away. "What is this?" Jason remained unblinking. His posture exuded ease, yet the atmosphere shifted. The vehicle exuded a sense of snugness. The pressure seemed to have shifted. "That old man," Jason continued, his voice low and cutting, "is the sole reason you're still alive." The passengers inhaled sharply, their breaths mingling with the tension in the air. The brute chuckled, a mix of bewilderment and rage flickering in his eyes. "Who on earth do you think you are?" Jason advanced a single step, a person who requires no spectators to bring this to a close. The lenses continued to capture every moment. However, at this moment, a shift in energy had occurred. The thug remained blissfully unaware of the truth that loomed just beyond his grasp. Yet, this was far more than a mere casualty caught in unfortunate circumstances. This was indeed Jason Statham, and he had reached a conclusion. This ride had come to an end. The brute bared his teeth and lunged forward. His fist flew through the air with remarkable speed. Untamed, formless, pure fury. Yet Jason was already in motion, a single step away from the centerline, gentle and fluid. The punch narrowly evaded its target, missing by mere inches. Jason's elbow shot up with force, a sharp impact direct to the thug's throat. The thug inhaled sharply, unevenly spaced. Just as he was about to descend, Jason executed a graceful sweep of his back leg in a fluid arc. The thug's boots lifted from the ground. He soared through the air, twisting gracefully before crashing spine first into a plastic subway seat, the backrest fracturing with a jarring thud. Sharp intakes of breath echoed within the confines of the vehicle. A piercing scream erupted from a woman. A single phone fell to the ground. Jason shifted subtly, inhaling with a sense of tranquility. Yet, in that moment, "Hello there," a different voice called out. "Do you really believe this is a film?" From the back of the car, two more thugs pushed their way forward. Both youthful, slender, and more assertive. One was already in motion, swinging gracefully. A metal pole tore free from his duffel bag. One of them seized a fire extinguisher from the wall of the train. His smirk radiated an unmistakable madness. Jason made no delay. The initial assailant surged forward, brandishing the pole. With a swift motion, Jason seized it with both arms, bracing himself against the force with his forearm. In one fluid movement, he propelled the pole upward, driving the bottom end forcefully into the attacker's ribs. Thud! The thug crumpled, breath stolen away. Jason entered, seized him by the collar, and slammed. He slammed the back of his head against the train window. The glass shattered, splintering into a myriad of jagged fragments. The thug descended, a marionette severed from its strings. The third man let out a fierce cry and lunged forward, brandishing the extinguisher as if it were a weapon. Jason swiftly ducked beneath it. Fluid motion, impeccable precision. With a swift motion, he seized the attacker's wrist, contorting it backward in a brutal Brazilian jiu-jitsu lock. The thug let out a piercing scream as his hold began to slip away. Jason pressed on, unwavering. With a swift motion, he pivoted, harnessing the man's forward momentum to send him tumbling over the closest bench. The man crashed to the ground with a thud, tumbling into the center aisle. Then Jason brought his foot down with force, not striking the head, but targeting the wrist, resulting in a sharp pop. The joint fractured with a muted crack. The brute let out a howl, gripping his arm tightly. Passengers leaped from their seats. A voice pierced through the chaos, urging, "Call 911. Another teenager just murmured, "Wow, that's Jason Statham." Amidst the chaos of destruction, Jason found himself surrounded by the remnants of what once was 3 men fallen. His own breath a fragile whisper. Yet he had more to say. He turned his head, gaze fixed on the subtle stir by the entrance. A fourth presence had just made its way into the car. Jason pressed on, unwavering in his determination. His gaze swept over the car, and he noticed a flicker of motion behind one of the poles. The primary brute, the one who had initially struck Mr. Harold, rose once more, baring his teeth, blood staining his lip, fury igniting in his gaze. He lunged forward, his fist poised for another reckless blow. Jason took the initiative and moved first. He sent a discarded backpack skidding across the floor with a swift kick. Challenging, it collided forcefully with the thug's shin as he sprinted forward. The man cried out and faltered. With a swift motion, Jason pivoted and seized the moment to drive his palm forcefully against the crimson emergency exit bar that loomed beside them. The jarring metallic clash and the abrupt change in air pressure left everyone in the car feeling disoriented. Passengers recoiled, their ears experiencing a subtle pressure change. The brute lashed out recklessly amidst the cacophony of sound. Jason swiftly evaded the punch, rising quickly with agility. Bang! With a swift motion, he seized the thug by the collar and drove his face forcefully against the subway pole. The metal reverberated with the impact. The man collided with it, his body crumpling like a discarded bundle of flesh. Jason caught him just before he could crash to the ground. His voice sliced through the train with an icy precision. You orchestrated a deception in front of an entire train of onlookers. That marked the first misstep. Placing a hand upon him. It was two. A low groan escaped his lips as crimson began to seep from the thug's brow. Yet the story was far from finished. Another assailant surged forward, still gripping the metal pole he had wielded moments before. In a swift motion, Jason pivoted, barely catching the moment as it unfolded. Shatter. With a forceful strike, he sent the thug's head crashing against the train window, the impact reverberating through the carriage. A delicate lattice of fractures unfurled across the surface of the glass. Is it the final contender who remains? Jason didn't allow him a moment to catch his breath. He entered the scene with purpose, delivering an elbow uppercut that snapped the thug's jaw shut before any weapon could be drawn. A savage strike to the groin ensued. The man succumbed to the weight of his circumstances. Jason pivoted sharply to face the initial thug, who was now scrambling backward, desperately grasping at the metal chain that hung around his own neck. A significant error. Jason seized the chain in the midst of its tug. With a swift and fluid movement, he seized it around the thug's neck, cinched it securely, and twisted from behind. The choke came swiftly, methodical, concluding. The thug's arms flailed for a brief moment, a chaotic dance of desperation. Subsequently, silence prevails. Jason eased the chain from its grip. Allow the man to descend softly onto the subway floor. Not gone. Merely existing in a state of profound unawareness. The vehicle descended into an utter hush. Corpses sprawled across the ground. Shattered panes. The atmosphere was laden with a palpable mix of tension and wonder. With a subtle roll of his shoulder and a gentle exhale, Jason pivoted gracefully. The battle has concluded. The subway car stood in silence. Not merely silent, but immobilized. A silence envelopes the air, heavy and profound, following an event that defies belief. Something genuine. A boy positioned toward the rear finally shattered the silence. Just a faint murmur. It was none other than Jason Statham. Another passenger, clutching his phone in astonished silence, whispered softly. That surpassed the allure of any film. A man in the midst of his years set his phone down. There's no chance that was orchestrated, he murmured. He simply let three of them fall. Jason remained silent. He merely pivoted and strolled back down the aisle, deftly stepping over one of the groaning thugs, now curled up and lamenting into the floor. His expression remained inscrutable, serene, yet tinged with an undercurrent of something more profound, a profound quietude that emerges solely in the wake of a tempest. He approached the elderly man, Mr. Harold, who sat on the edge of a bench, visibly shaken yet maintaining his composure. His suit bore the marks of disarray. A bruise began to take shape near his temple. His hand quivered ever so slightly, still grasping the coat that had been wrenched away moments before. Jason lowered himself a bit, his hand softly placed on Harold's shoulder. "Are you feeling well, sir?" he inquired gently. Harold blinked up at him, his eyes glistening with unshed tears, breath coming in shallow gasps, yet he managed to nod. "You needn't have done that. I appreciate it," he remarked. With a solitary nod, Jason gestured toward the vacant chair. Harold settled into it with a measured grace. A figure rose silently from across the aisle, crossing the space with purpose to retrieve the old man's cane, which had been sent skittering away amidst the turmoil. The front door of the train swung open with a rush of air. 2 transit security officers boarded, their eyes immediately sweeping for any signs of trouble, and they quickly discovered it. 3 men sprawled across the floor, shards of glass glinting ominously, their faces marred by bruises. Jason Statham stood tall beside an elderly man, an air of command radiating from him. The officers parted their lips. Yet, before words could escape their lips, the passengers burst forth in a cacophony. He stood as a shield for that man. They were attempting to steal from others. He brought them to a halt. A medal is certainly in order for him. A woman raised her phone and declared, "We have everything on video. He was our savior." The guards cast their gaze upon Jason, then at the unconscious thugs. Jason met their gaze and, maintaining his tone, said, "They weren't merely scamming money. They were robbing humanity of its dignity." One of the sentinels blinked. The other simply inclined their head in a slow, deliberate manner. No restraints. There are no inquiries. Only respect. As the train pulled into the next station, the inevitability of what lay ahead had already set in, too late to alter the course of events. The initial clip graced TikTok before the subway had even come to a complete stop. A brief 12-second clip entitled, "Jason Statham Takes Down Thugs on the NYC Subway, Rescues Elderly Man." In just 1 hour, it amassed 5 million views. As the clock struck the 3rd hour, the hashtag Statham Subway surged to prominence, trending across 3 platforms. As the day draws to a close, the count stands at 20 million views. A multitude of perspectives, each moment seized, refined, analyzed. Compilations on YouTube showcase slow-motion breakdowns of his blocks, juxtaposing them with his cinematic battles, while real BJJ black belts provide insightful analysis of his grappling technique. The comments section erupted with fervor. The elderly gentleman required no savior, yet he possesses a legend. He is not participating in films. He's merely restraining himself in the tangible world. True justice, genuine velocity, authentic Jason. Observe how he remained silent until the very final moment. True strength often speaks in whispers. A Twitter user shared a thought. Jason Statham has reminded us that not all heroes don capes. Some don hoodies and navigate the subway instead. Jason naturally remained silent in the digital realm. No tweet available. There will be no interview. Yet, that only amplified the clamor of the internet. The mainstream media takes notice. As the clock struck 12 hours, news anchors began delivering the unfolding story live. The local stations broadcast the unedited footage. The national morning shows engaged in a lively debate over the possibility of it being staged. Authorities have verified that it was not the case. CNN. A startling video captures actor Jason Statham intervening in a brutal attack on an elderly man. The NYPD has confirmed that no charges have been filed. Ruffians. Jason Statham confronts genuine thugs with more finesse than he does fictional villains. TMZ. Jason Statham transforms a New York City subway car into his own private dojo. A police official issued a brief statement. Upon careful examination of all passenger footage and witness testimonies, we affirm that Mr. Statham acted in justifiable defense of another civilian. No charges have been filed. A tempest of memes. And then the meme emerged. An impeccably timed snapshot captured from the most pristine perspective. Jason, caught in the heat of battle, fixated on the thug, his muscles coiled with tension. Onlookers stood transfixed, their expressions a blend of wonder and disbelief. A caption was provided by someone. "Could you repeat that, please?" The image burst forth with intensity. In mere hours, it found its way across social media, serving as a response to all manner of events. Unfounded judgments, haughty trendsetters, unsatisfactory support. Even the brands joined the fray. Reddit, as you step into a discussion, prepared to bring down the bravado of those who wield their keyboards like weapons. The official account of the UFC. Jason, there's an opening on the upcoming card if you're interested. By the following day, fan art, t-shirts, and even deepfake remixes flooded Instagram. Jason remained silent. Yet, the internet has an impeccable memory. What about that subway car? It transformed into a legend. As the train doors hissed open, Jason Statham made no pause for gratitude. He paid no mind to the few passengers who remained captivated, nor to the teenage girl recording from the shadows of her hoodie. As the transit officers entered, hands lifted, mouths poised to inquire, Jason was already in motion. He offered the elderly gentleman a fleeting nod. Simply that. Then she turned, glided through the narrowing gap of the closing doors of the next car, as if a specter passing unseen. Without any celebration, without hesitation, not a single backward glance. The officers cast bewildered glances at one another. One of them whispered under their breath, "Was that truly?" Yet Jason had vanished. He ascended the stairs 2 at a time, emerging from the underground turmoil as if it were merely another room he had traversed. Outside, the New York air brushed against his face like a soft sigh. The city thrived in its usual rhythm, oblivious to the fact that a subway legend had just emerged from the depths of obscurity. He straightened his jacket, lowered his cap to shield his eyes, and blended seamlessly into the throng of pedestrians. He went unnoticed by all. He faced no obstacles, precisely as he preferred. Deep beneath the surface, murmurs of his name lingered among the shadows. It was once whispered that he graced a film set many years prior. Another person contended that he appeared shorter in person. The child with the phone had already shared the concluding clip. It ascended rapidly. Yet Jason had already ventured 3 blocks down the road. A taxi cruised past. He dismissed it with a wave, opted for a stroll. Occasionally, the individuals wielding the greatest influence are those who remain largely silent.